retina scanners here before I get somebody in, multiple stuff, right? Do I need to do all that? Do I need to have a couple of dogs inside, right? How do I decide all that, right? That's TRA, right? You do a threat risk assessment based on the asset value that you have, the risk values that you have, and based on that, this is sorry about that. So, so based on that, you define what controls you need to define, right? So ultimately, it's a control framework that you need to create, right? So policy, procedures, control framework, which you will hear more if when you go to CISA world, right? Legal regulations and compliance. The other thing, right? Why do companies do these things? You talked about because we will lose money, fine. The other area where companies are forced to do these things, why? That's quality assurance. Nobody forces the government to, nobody forces an organization to do ISO 9000, right? Because that's quality assurance, right? You may do it because, why do organizations do it? Because, okay, we are having too many, we don't follow Six Sigma or anything. We have, too many bad manufacturing practices and all those things. You need to have a standardized way of doing these things, right?
Public company, they have some regulations.
SAS, yes. Statement of Accounting Standards, yes. SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley, yes. Yes, so organizations are forced because there are government regulations. Laws are there. You have to follow laws, right? There are some areas, right? See, you don't cross a road because there is a risk that there is high traffic, you may die, correct? There is another area why you don't cross a road because there is a law against jaywalking, correct? That's why you don't do it, right? So these are the two things, right? So companies are also forced to do things because there is a legal requirement for them not to do it, right? Or so they have to do some things, right? So what are the different regulations, right? So privacy for PIPEDA, SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley, Bill 198, this is Canadian SOX, NERT, right? When I come from a utilities background, we have to follow the new North American Energy Regulatory Commission, we have to follow critical infrastructure protection. All these assets that are out there, they have to be protected, right? You have to keep the lights up, right? PCI compliance, if you handle credit card, PCI compliance is required, right? These are some of the areas why companies create security practices, security offices, and follow all these things. You will have forensic investigations, somebody did something, right? So now you have to do some forensics, you have to find out who did what, did an employee, he served a pawn site, okay? Did he do it because, he just inadvertently went to it, or he was doing it deliberately, right? Is it grounds for firing him or not, right? So those kind of things, right? So you have to look at all that, right? It may not be something as simple as just, going to a site, right? It may be that he transferred confidential information across, right? Or he did banking fraud, right? Maybe he did that, right? So that's where forensics comes in, right? And we have to get involved in that because all these frauds are enabled by IT systems. Environmental security, physical security, right? Restricted areas, you have to define restricted areas. You have fire, you have CCTV, the cameras, you have access cards, right? So this is all about environmental security. You have a data center, you need to keep it at a certain temperature, right? You need to do capacity planning for that, right? So all of those things comes under environmental, also called physical security. Security by design, architecture, right? See, we all know, right? When we write up a software program, we write code, right? It's good that you should define everything right up front. Your requirements are very clearly defined. This application will support these particular functions. It will have these many forms designed, right? It will have these many input functions, these many outputs, very clearly defined. Once you have built all this, you have gone into testing, now you are ready to go operational, right? At that point, somebody comes up and says, oh, there's a bug in the system, or we need new functionality. What's going to happen to your whole application development process, your whole life cycle, right? You have to go back to requirements now, right? Or you have to put on, like Microsoft does, you put on bolt-on code, right? With the attendant issues of security, right? Bug fixes, right? So, security by design means that you embed security and security thinking, the security thought process in every system development, right? In maintenance, in operational areas. So it deals with new technology, legacy technology, operational processes, right? All of these things, security by design, right? So some of the things that we've covered there, right? So OS, you have kernel, user mode, common criteria, right? TCSEC, which is the Trusted Computing Security. So many. Pardon me? Too many abbreviations, yes. Basically, it has to do with trusting a computer system, right? How do you trust your home computer, your router? How do you trust that? How do you trust that when you surf the net using your access router, right? When you type in your password, how do you trust that this system is not sending that stream of everything that's passing through to two different places? One is going to legitimate traffic to your, to your TD account, let's say. Another stream is being sent to somewhere, to my house, to my machine. I am logging everything. How do you trust the system, right?
Have to trust the manufacturer. Right?
Yes.
If they have done something like that, I can do it.
Correct. But you see, you need to have oversight on that, right? So there has to be somebody out there, an organization, an independent organization that tests these systems and then certifies them against something, right? Crash resistance, right? When you go and buy a car, right? Don't you check whether it has, what's the crash resistance?
Normally the router is provided by your ISP, right? So it should be guaranteed by, in my case, it's Rogers.
Yes.
If my account gets...
Did you sign that agreement with them?
For what?
No, because is that written into your,
so
basically you're saying the liability is Rogers, right? That's what you're saying.
I'm going to tell them I'm taking the security course. Have you done this thing with me?
How can you do they are just providing internet, there is a WhatsApp site. It's a totally different thing.
No, what we are talking about is the device, the modem that's provided, right? It's provided by Rogers. So what he's saying is, I trust my ISP, my vendor, right, my communication service provider, and I trust them. Now, if my information is lost because of this system, right, then it is Rogers' liability. So my question is, did you read the contract, right? Because if you want to sue them, then you should have read the contract, and there must be a statement there which says liability is Rogers. It's very difficult to get lawyers to agree to something like that, right? If you get something like that, please join us. No, they don't agree. They seriously don't agree, right? They will not agree to any liability clauses like that, right? It's very limited liability, right? You can use it. It's on your, it's your risk. Yes, right? And do you think Rogers themselves, do you think they make it? They're a communication company. They're not a manufacturing company, right? Cisco, Motorola, these are the guys who make it, right? D-Link, these are the guys who make it. Do you think Rogers has the time to go and check this? Is that their core business to test these things out? No, right? So the vendor who makes it can claim whatever he wants to claim, right?
But they probably make like a Cisco or Motorola to guarantee the device is not being hacked.
Okay. That's a big area, okay? We'll get into that. So that's what basically the common criteria is all about. It's about certifying different things, right? Different devices, different processes, different technologies against certain criteria. There are independent laboratories, right? Like the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, that tests all these things. They have accredited laboratories that test these things, so that these systems are designed and work as they claim to be, right? One is brochure, right? Brochureitis. Have you heard of brochureitis? You read the brochure, whatever is written in the brochure is gospel truth, not true, right? Communication and network security, right? This is something pretty straightforward. The OSI model, right? The 7 layers, right? You start with that, right? What are the 7 layers? 7 layers of the OSI, Open System Interconnect Model. Physical.
Application
We have gone up to the 6th and 7th. Physical layer at the bottom, right? You have physical layer, then you have the MAC layer,
Data layer.
IP,
Session level,
network session, yes, presentation, application. 7 layers, yes. So that's, you want to understand networks, you start with that, fundamentally, right? Nothing changes, whether you're talking about ATM, frame relay, ITCP, IP, whatever, right? Everything you can map into the OSI layer. So you need to understand that fundamentally.